Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams as we always do. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on tap for us today. And of course, again, always a great panel for you. Guerry Smith, NOLA.com, The Wave Report, and John Sokoloff of WGNO Channel 26 Sports joins us on the program. We'll start with John. John, welcome to the show. Welcome to New Orleans. You've only been here for a short time. Tell us a little bit about your background. And again, thank you for coming down today.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I really appreciate it. Yeah, new here, about 4 months in. Mm-hmm. I used to work in Lubbock, Texas, covering Texas Tech. Spent the past 4 years in Mississippi, covering Ole Miss and Mississippi State at WGNO as a sports director. And now I've been here, and we obviously, cover the Saints, the Pels, Tulane, LSU, all the great junior colleges and high schools in the area, and it's just been a blast.
Right. So how have you enjoyed New Orleans since you
I love it. The food is great. Had my first Mardi Gras. That was an experience. Yes. Maybe a couple conversations for off the air.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding. But it's been great, man. I mean, I just really like to get entrenched into the city's traditions and all that good stuff. And the sports scene down here, I mean, you truly cannot beat it. So this is a place that I'd been hoping to go to for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of people say we punch above our weight. We really do, considering two pro teams in a city that that doesn't have the population we once had. Welcome to New Orleans.
Thank you.
Great job at Channel 26. Can't wait to have you part of our show today.
Appreciate it, man.
Welcome back to the program, my friend. Gary's with. Gary seems like he's my long lost brother. He's with me every Thursday on radio. Anytime I need him, he's always there. I'm always texting him about stuff with Tulane. Of course, the Wave Report is again a site. Again, if you are a Tulane fan, you have to sign up for the Wave Report. You get all your information first. Tell us about the site, and of course, it can also work for NOLA.com, the Times Picayune.
Yeah, it's thewavereport.com, tulane.rivals.com. Just click on either one of those. You get to the front page, finds you. It's in the Rivals network. Less than $10 a month for a subscription, and obviously, basically full time at NOLA.com too. Yes. So I'm busy covering Tulane.
And you can catch him every Thursday at 4:15 on my radio show as well. And of course, as many times as I can get him. We love having Gary on our programs. All right, guys, let's get started with the New Orleans Saints. And I just asked you guys off the air because I think it's the biggest topic right now in the city. If you're really paying attention to what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, again, free agency kind of winds down about right now because a lot of veterans want to make sure that what happens with the draft now, that again, there'll be post-draft signees because they want to make sure, again, they got a spot, etc. So that slowed down a bit. So a lot of focus on the draft. But the Saints have created $31 million in cap space. And you're talking about a team that, again, that's traditionally, again, been in the negative when it comes to cap space. We know that every year that, again, Mickey Loomis has to be able to restructure contracts. We call it kicking the can down the road in order to be able to create cap room. They created a cap room, and we figured, again, it would be a situation where it would be much like we've seen over the last couple of years where a lot of guys on one-year deals, a lot of cast-offs, maybe bringing some guys back. We've seen a little bit of that, but when you talk about major signing, maybe Justin Reed is the only major signing they had other than maybe bringing Chase Young back. But for the life of me, I'm scratching my head. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm going to turn to you guys. Why the $31 million in cap space if you're not going to use it? I mean, if you are going to use it, how will you utilize it?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, it's a little mystifying to me what's going on, because it doesn't really seem like there's any. What are they going to do with that space? They created money when they're not going to really do a whole lot with it. But why do you create that space if you're not planning on doing something with it? So I don't expect anything. Honestly, I know that the money's there. I don't expect anything major. I mean, they're still, like you said, they're still kicking the can down the road regardless. They're still going to have to pay the piper at some point, although they found a way to not have to do that. But I mean, I don't see them moving on from Derek Carr. I don't see them doing that at this point. I don't. So I have no idea. That's my professional answer on that as to what they're going to do with this money.
There's so many different ways that this can go, and the NFL salary cap to me is a mystery. I mean, you could be. What were the Saints? 50 million plus over heading into this. You restructure a couple things, you carry the one, and then all of a sudden, you're 31 million below it. I have no idea. Maybe Mickey Loomis is just kind of keeping that option open in the event that something like this could happen. Maybe they will have, I don't even know, I don't even want to be hypothetical with any of these moves. What I will say though, I saw Adam Schefter talking about yesterday, the Titans with the #1 pick, how they're hosting Cam Ward for a workout, but maybe hoping they can get a Godfather offer to get him. Seems like, they're trying to milk as much value as they can for that #1 pick. But he mentioned as teams, maybe going up to trade to move to #1, he mentioned the Browns, he mentioned the Giants, but at the end, he also mentioned the Saints. I mean, pick #2, pick #3, and then pick #9. So maybe it creates some flexibility in that regard. I'm not sure, but what I do know is I agree with Guerry because, one, Derek Carr will probably be their guy back next year because, #1, I mean, he was hurt a lot last year, and he kind of gets, I don't want to say an unfair rap, but he gets a lot of grief from fans, and I don't know if all of it's deserved. And also, if Derek Carr were to hit the market and they were to cut him, I mean, there would be a line of teams, lining up to maybe try and sign him. I know the Jets probably would have, the Titans would have, and I mean, there would be a market for him. So if you're going to get rid of him, you have to have a better plan in place. I don't think they have that at this time, so you should probably stick with him.
Interesting. Now, again, if they were to move off Derek Carr and to trade him, they would need that cap space to absorb the dead money for this year.
No doubt.
So maybe if that's their thought process, again, that they move up to get a Cam Ward. Although, again, man, we were talking about this before the show. Next year, there's like 10 quarterbacks, that have NFL. I don't want to say can't miss NFL, but have the ability to maybe play in the NFL again, that'll be in the draft. You're at 9 now. It would take a Godfather offer to move up to 1
a lot
to be able to get Cam Ward.
You're talking 2 #1s probably.
At least, right? And then maybe, again, part of this draft, and then possibly maybe a player as well. Maybe that player is Derek Carr, maybe it's not, if you're looking at that. And, of course, speculation on my part at this point, but
Tennessee needs a QB too, though. So if they were to get Derek Carr, I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world.
And they get him really at an inexpensive rate, because again, the Saints have paid the bonus for this year. So anything they would be responsible for would be, again, his base salary next year when you talk about the contract. But do you think that there's a chance that they want to move up and maybe get a Cam Ward?
There's a chance.
From 9 to 1.
It's a new coach, Kellen Moore. It's obviously same general manager, that stuff. But there's a chance. I don't think it's a good one. Look, I don't kind of pigtail on what he said on. I don't want to sound like I'm in Derek Carr's bag because I've watched him for 2 years. He certainly has not been great by any stretch of the imagination. But they have a winning record with him as a starting quarterback, 1 over 500. They're actually plus 140 in points scored in games that he started in his 2 years when they're there, and they're more than minus 100 with they didn't win a single game when he wasn't there. So it's not like he was the problem on this team. I know there are a lot of fans that feel like he was the problem. He certainly hasn't been the solution, because again, they had a winning record 2 years ago, but against that schedule, there was no excuse for them to only go 9-8. They had to be better than that.
Yes, exactly. And also a couple of things off of that too. Number one, whenever we've seen a team trade up in the first round to that #1 pick, I feel like that trade always has happened by now, like when we get this much closer to the draft. And who knows, maybe it'll happen tomorrow, but when the Panthers traded with Chicago to move up to 1, that was a fairly, early in free agency, pre-draft process kind of trade. When the 49ers did it, to move up to 3 and they took Trey Lance, that was an early in the process thing too.
Right.
The reason that trade hasn't happened to me yet, I mean, maybe the Titans are just trying to drive that price up, but who knows? But on the other side of things, I mean, you get rid of Derek Carr, you're trading draft capital to move up.
Right.
And I mean, Paulson Adebo left. I mean, you still need another cornerback,
Right.
I mean, their defensive line, Devon Godshaw, that's a nice piece to bring in, but their run defense was atrocious last year, 31st in the NFL. You got to help fix that too. So there's a lot of parts to this. So if you're going to mortgage a ton, I mean, that could hurt.
I agree with you, John.
I agree. And also, look, Kellen Moore coming in creates a different identity a little bit.
No
But
doubt.
it's clear that Mickey Loomis thinks he can win with Derek Carr. I mean,
Right.
that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So unless Kellen Moore is incredibly anti-Derek Carr, which is possible, we
Right,
don't really
could be,
know
right.
what he's like. I don't care what people say and stuff like that. Mickey Loomis thinks the Saints are close. I think most of us think they're not that close,
Right.
but he definitely thinks they're close, and that if they can stay healthy, that they can make a run with what they have right now. I agree. To me, what he just said, they got to fix that run defense before they do anything. You cannot win in the NFL when you can't stop the run. And it wasn't just that they were 31st; they were second to last in yards per carry allowed. So they couldn't stop the run.
They could not
and
at all.
You're not winning when
Right,
you don't do
right. And I agree with both of you. Look, there are so many needs on this team, in my opinion. Offensive defensive lines, again, need to be the priority here. John mentioned cornerback. You got a big hole there. You went from that being the strength of your team, and in one season now, an unknown. It really is.
Right.
I mean, to me, Alontae Taylor is a better nickel corner than he is an outside corner. Kool-Aid is, again, going into his second year, so there's inexperience there. So again, there's a need there. If you are truly switching to a 3-4, you're not doing it in 1 year, but you're going to try to bring in players that, again, can play that system. How do you do that? Well, again, you have $31 million in free agency, but most of the top free agents are off the board now.
Yeah.
So, again, you have to do that through the draft. So to me, it makes no sense to be able to say, okay, I'm in love with Cam Ward. I'm going to give up multiple drafts to go get Cam Ward when we have more needs on this team than just, a young, up-and-coming quarterback.
And they're not a QB away. It's not like
Right.
they're one QB away
Agreed.
from doing this. So think about this. If you're trading up from 9 to 1, Carolina, what they gave up, I think they moved up from 8 to 1, and it was 2 number ones. It was DJ Moore, who's a A-list receiver in the league, and all that stuff. If you're the Saints, you're giving up those couple of number ones. Those number ones are exponentially valuable because this team, let's face it, is not projected to be good next season.
Right. I agree.
Let me tell you one pickup I like, which is under the radar and is not going to be a true difference maker. I like them bringing Isaac Yiadom back.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
He had a terrific year 2
He
years
did.
ago. He went from a guy I was like, who he?
He's a starting corner in the NFL.
And he had 14 pass breakups. He was
played
really,
well.
really good
He
that
did.
year. And
That
he
was a
didn't
great guy to
he
bring
didn't have
in.
as good a year with the 49ers, but he was a solid player. I liked that pickup for them.
And he's got
Yeah.
familiarity with Brandon Staley, too. Those guys have extensive experience
Yes.
together, so that could be a guy that they can bring in there that can really make an impact.
Right, but again, most people believe that he is a backup a cornerback. I mean, again, but even if you go out and draft a cornerback, you still have the growing pains of having, again, a young cornerback, and you can have a very young secondary now in terms of the corners. Not so much, again, your safeties, but in terms of your corners.
And it was a team that finished, I think they were 5th or 6th in the NFL in pass defense efficiency opposing quarterback rating. So
Right.
the one area where they were pretty good, they're starting over now.
Another question that again, something that didn't happen last year, and I'd be interested to see if they go in this direction or not. They did not go with a veteran backup quarterback last year, and a lot of that had to do with the salary cap, not having the money to put out for a quality veteran backup.
Yeah.
John, I'll take you first. Do you think they'll go with a veteran backup this year, or do you think, again, they're going to stay with the 2 young guys?
I mean, I think they like Spencer Rattler.
Right.
I think they view him as a mature, up-and-coming, good quarterback. And behind the scenes, he really impressed a lot of people there last season. I think the kid did not really get a fair chance with that offensive line, so banged up with McCoy out and a lot of players, missing. He didn't really have protection. Olave was hurt, so, the receivers weren't as great. And he was solid enough when you bring in the rookie QB scale that you put these guys on. So maybe they're comfortable enough with him. They say, okay, he'll be able to grow another year into it, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not sure. Maybe they could draft someone in like the 4th round or something along those lines. But you're right. I mean, this market for backup QBs, I think Jameis is getting like $5 or $4 million a year with the Giants. Daniel Jones is making $14 million. You see these guys make like $8 to $11 to $12 million if you're a high-end backup in the league, and that's a luxury. Maybe the Saints don't want to, use that salary cap that they've cautiously made on.
Yeah, I'm of two minds here. One, I think they made a mistake not having a veteran backup last year because they won exactly 0 games with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener there. Now, having said that, it's not like they would have made the playoffs if they'd had a veteran backup, so we're not talking about that big a deal. I wasn't very impressed with Spencer Rattler. I totally agree he didn't have a fair chance with the receivers hurt in the offensive line, but I didn't see that. I didn't see enough from him in terms of the consistency department that you're gonna be. But I think him having that experience, now they feel like they have a somewhat experienced backup, so I'll be surprised if he's not the
But the thing with him too is, like, when we saw him, well, at Oklahoma he got run out of town. But when he was at South Carolina, there'd be games where I would, like, when they played Tennessee, I'm like, is this guy the #1 pick in the draft? Then there'd be other games, I'm like, man, where's this guy's head? So you got to wonder how quickly his development would be at this level when we, let's face it, never really saw that much consistency in college.
I agree with you. It's been the inconsistency of Spencer Rattler which has held him back.
Right.
Okay? There's talent there. You can see it. There's arm talent there. Again, his mobility. But again, it's been the inconsistency that's held him back. I did want to ask about the wide receiver position because they go out and get Brandon Cooks. And it really, to me, it didn't make a lot of sense because, again, you got smallish receivers as well with Olave and Shaheed. And I really felt like they were going to get a big receiver. And then when I saw the contract, I just had to shake my head. They gave Brandon Cooks a 2-year deal worth $13 million, $3.1 in 25, $8 million in 26, avoidable year in 27 worth $1.6 million. There's no word on the signing bonus here. He'll be 32 when the season starts. Last year, they gave MVS. It was $1.2 million. Okay, he made a little bit over almost $3 million with
incentives.
Well, actually, with Buffalo.
Okay,
before he was cut. He signs with Seattle this year for 1 year, $4 million. 1 year, $4 million, which is he made about $3.5 million last year, about $500,000 more than what he made, again, between Buffalo and New Orleans. He seems like the type receiver that, again, you were looking for, a big receiver that could get downfield instead of another smallish receiver. And again, to me, just to me, a 32-year receiver, 32-year receiver, 2 years, $13 million, a little bit of an overpay when you compare it to what MVS was making last year.
Yeah, there's a shelf life for receivers in the NFL, and it sure looked to me like Brandon Cooks fell off that shelf last year. He wasn't healthy. He had a knee infection that caused some meniscus problems that caused him, but those numbers just dropped precipitously. At his age, betting on him coming back, Valdez-Scantling, he had some red flags from the past, but he was very productive for the Saints.
He was great
and he was a different type receiver from what they have. I
was a receiver like what Carr likes, big receiver that can get downfield.
I think having a guy like him helps the team more than what they're going to get out of Brandon Cooks.
Well, Brandon Cooks, #1, I feel so bad for the guy for how many concussions he's had in his career. I mean, everywhere, all those different stops that he's had. At some point, you're like, man, like, hang it up, move on, whatnot. Here's what I'm also interested in. 2 years, $13 million. Who are you bidding against for 32-year-old Brandon Cooks, whose numbers have plummeted? Like, who are you out there bidding against? It's not like, someone else, Kansas City is like, we will sign Brandon Cooks if you guys don't.
And it's not like they're trying to get back to when he was part of a winning culture, because the 3 years he was with the Saints, they went 7-9 all 3 years. So.
And of course, one of the reasons why he got shipped out the door was there was I can't remember the game, but there was a game where one receiver had 10 catches.
And he
didn't get any catches. The Saints won by like 30 points, and he was complaining about it in the locker room. And again, within a couple of weeks, Peyton said, "All right, you're out of here."
And got a first-round pick for him.
Right, exactly. And a player, if I'm not mistaken. To your point, 10 games last year, 26 receptions on 54 targets, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns, the worst of his career.
Also, Dak was hurt. Something important to mention, but yes, I mean, the numbers.
26 catches on 54 targets, that's unheard of low
it is.
in the NFL.
But you let Valdez-Scantling get away, and again, he's only making $4 million. Okay, he's only making $4 million, and again, you give 2 years, $13 million to again, a guy that looks like a descending player. MVS didn't look at a descending player last year for the New Orleans Saints. And obviously, maybe there's a relationship between him and Kubiak, and that's why he went to Seattle. But again, he was in your building. And you needed a big receiver. I don't understand why they let him go. To your point about concussions, Olave is in the same situation, right? Again, to me, if I'm Olave, if I'm his agent, I'm consulting saying, man, I don't know if you want to take another hit, much less that. So again, there's that question mark for him coming back as well. So now you have Brandon Cooks and Olave who have been dealing with concussions, and of course Shaheed has been injured as well.
Yeah, so many injuries piled up for this team last year, and that can't go unnoticed with that. I mean, that was definitely a big part of why they derailed.
Sure. But also the receiving depth was terrible going into last year, so they were setting themselves up for that situation, and it doesn't look a lot better right now. It's hard to win in the NFL when you only have about 2 or 3 receivers that are NFL caliber receivers on your roster.
It does also seem like to me that Olave is really dedicated to coming back. I mean, he was fully medically cleared, ready to go, return to practice with about 3 weeks to go in the season. Now, what would be the point of him returning? Nothing. And they left it up to him. And look, if I were him, I wouldn't come back. I'm not an NFL receiver, but I probably wouldn't have returned either. You know, I mean, I'm not going to risk this just for these games that don't matter. But it seems like, you know, he's eager, and he talked to whatever neuroscience specialist to help clear him. So we'll see. But I think every Saints fan is going to hold their breath every time he catches a ball over the middle.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, guys. Overall thoughts on how they've done in free agency thus far. Now, with $31 million, you would expect, and there's probably about $10 million of that, probably $7 to $10 million of that was probably for their rookie class, because again, they've got multiple picks. Again, 1 first round, 2nd round, 2 third round picks, 2 4th round picks, a 6th round pick, and a 7th round pick, which is a compensatory pick. So they've got a lot of picks this year.
And that's how you build through the draft, not free agency.
Not free agency. So how do you think they did in free agency so far?
Yeah, I'll give them a C.
Okay.
About what I expect. No groundbreaking guys coming in. They tried to fill a hole. We'll see if they've helped their defensive line or not. And that's questionable at this point with Godshaw. They may have a starting right guard, left guard coming in, but I just don't. Nothing changed the picture on those.
That's Dylan Runnitz, I think it is.
Yeah. Nothing jumped off the page. I will say I like the Justin Reed signing. It's a nice story. I think he'll be really good back there. We talked to him Super Bowl week. You know, the opening night we were close to him the whole time, and he's even during that game. I mean, he's a huge guy. I think he'll give this team and this secondary a boost. I mean, when Kansas City brought him in, they brought him in to replace Tyrann Mathieu. He did a very good job there. They almost three-peated. He was a big part of that defense. So I think he'll give that secondary structure. Chase Young was a lot of money.
Yes.
But he was up there when it came to QB pressures last year, and he only had he had like hardly any time to prepare because of that neck surgery that he had. Now he's going to have a full off season to fully get ready for this year, build on what he did last year. He's only 25 years old. Is he going to be the Chase Young that, you know, we thought he could be when coming out of Ohio State at the number 2 overall pick? Probably not. But if he can even reach, 75 to 80% of that potential, I think that's a huge win for New Orleans. But I agree. I'm a little underwhelmed by what they did, but I don't think teams ever. I mean, free agency is always a little overrated in the NFL, in my opinion. I think the draft. I mean, there's so many good guys.
Right. So draft now. Priority for the Saints. Give me 3.
Offensive line, defensive line again. They may have their starters on the offensive line, but that's not a very good offensive line by NFL standards. So I think if there's a guy they're looking for there, but the defensive line has to be the biggest priority because they don't have much there. Chase Young had a pretty good year. I think they need to bring him back. They were kind of middle of the pack in sacks last year. If you'd asked me, I would have thought they were near the bottom. Honestly, watching them play, they needed to bring him back because he gave them some pass rush. But they've got to find a guy that can stop the run.
Yep, I agree.
I know this is a pretty somewhat deep draft when it comes to defensive linemen available. I think if you're the Saints, those positions that Guerry was talking about, those are obviously very important. The O and D line, cornerback, that's something else. Will Johnson from Michigan, I think that maybe they can get him to sneak down to 9 because he had to miss some time last year. I think it was like turf toe or something along those lines. He could be a good guy to get in there, especially after they lost Paulson Adebo. But I think if you're Mickey Loomis, you need to look at all those needs. You need to take the best player available at that whatever. I mean, if you're the Saints, you're not if we just get X position, we could be right there. No. You need to build this thing up methodically throughout the draft. Best player available at any of those positions in need. And I mean that list is somewhat long and kind of go from there. Could it be a Will Johnson? Could it be someone on the D line? Could it be help on the offensive line? I mean, there's there's so many different ways you can go about it. But there are going to be a lot of good options at 9.
I would agree with both of you. Offensive line, defensive line, cornerback, but again, need at all positions. Okay, I would not be opposed to moving out of 9 and moving back. I know that goes against the MO of that front office. But again, to acquire as many picks as you can, that's how you get yourself out of not being a playoff team for the last 4 years. Again, building that depth, getting guys that are getting inexpensive, especially when you're dealing with a salary cap issue, and then having some guys that can break through and be starters for you immediately.
And they need a staff with a better vision than Dennis Allen had. Again, I watched Zach Vaughn in the playoffs, and it's just like, this is a team that didn't think he could play for them, and that was in his expertise. So he was a lot of the problem in the last. Same
thing with Caden Ellis in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, we go right down the line.
Yeah, we can over and over. So hopefully Kellen Moore and his staff have a better clue about how to use guys.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon Staley, I mean, he's a guy that when he worked as a defensive coordinator with LA, their defense was top 5 in the league. So
he's got really good credentials.
Yeah, no doubt.
And look, hopefully again, Kellen Moore, we know he's an offensive genius, can be that leader of men that's necessary to be a head coach. And that was the only question. His credentials are there. The only question is, again, can he lead? And again, we'll find out pretty quickly again in this upcoming season. All right, join us on our program tonight, Guerry Smith of NOLA.com and the Wave Report, John Sokoloff of WGNO Channel 26. I'm Eric Asher. I'm your host. We'll take a pause right here, listen to hear from our underwriters. When we come back, we'll jump into the collegiate game, and also we'll talk about the Pelicans. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. John Sokoloff of WGNO Channel 26 and Guerry Smith of NOLA.com, our guest. All right, guys, let's start off with college basketball. First of all, McNeese, want to congratulate them. They made it to the second round of the tournament, lost to Purdue 76-62. They upset Clemson in round 1. Will Wade's time at McNeese, incredible. 36-2 in the Southland over his 2 years there, 2 NCAA tournament bids, 1 win in the NCAA tournament. He has taken the NC State job. Bill Armstrong, former assistant for Wade at LSU, is now being named the head basketball coach at McNeese. Wade was really lauded for his honesty through this process, and really maybe setting the new standard for coaches on how they deal with NIL and also the unlimited transfer portal. Being very open and honest with his players on, again, that he was leaving. Told the administration when he took the job that he would not look elsewhere for 2 years, but after 2 years he would look elsewhere to try to get into a Power 4 conference. And then, of course, even sitting down with his players and, I guess, counseling them on possible moves to other schools through the transfer portal, which again to me is like unheard of. But again, most people believe that that's the type of coach you're going to need going forward on the collegiate level.
I mean, first of all, I'll give him credit for staying for 2 years because he could have left after last year. So we'll start there. The rest, I'm not. It's easy to do that at McNeese. It's easy to be honest at McNeese. Let's see what happens if he's at a bigger school comes calling, if he's successful at North Carolina State.
Yes.
So I'm not going to give him a whole lot of credit.
Okay.
Here. I'll give him tremendous credit for beating Clemson in the NCAA tournament because McNeese, they're really not that good. Like, they're really talented. I mean, for their level, they got really good athletes. they
was
found a team they could beat. Clemson did not show up for the first 30 minutes of that game, but he had.
They scored 13 points. It was great.
He had his guys believing because I saw a ton of athletic ability, not a whole lot of basketball ability on that McNeese roster when I watched them in both years in the NCAA tournament. But I wouldn't want to be his replacement, Armstrong. That's a tough gig going to a place where a guy went to a school that hadn't done much and just dominated for 2 years. That's as hard a job as you're going to have.
I can't believe this went the way that it did. I remember talking to Richie Mills in our sports office. Why is this getting leaked out now? Like, why? I feel like sometimes it's expected to or emerging, whatever. It's like, no, he's agreed. Like this, it seemed a little more. I don't know. It seemed a little more forward than we're used to. And I just kept talking to Rich. I'm like, man, this is going to be a distraction. Right. These players, like, I picked Clemson, heavily to win that game.
Look how big they were.
Yeah, so much bigger.
Right.
And why would the players play hard for Will Wade if he's just going to up and leave and it's already out there and everyone knows that he's leaving them? But instead, it was a complete 180. He told all those players, hey, some of you can come with me after this. It was the ultimate motivating factor. These players at McNeese who wouldn't have offers anywhere else now potentially have a chance to go to a Power 4 program. Right. And if they play hard in the NCAA tournament and prove themselves even more, they're going to get that opportunity.
Yeah. And I'll say this, though. I mean, those guys weren't playing for McNeese. They were playing for Will Wade.
Yes, exactly.
So that's part of why he was also able to do that. It's not like he inherited these guys and they're McNeese lifers or something like that. When you got a guy from Syracuse that was on the roster this year, those guys went to play for Will Wade, and they knew the situation when they went there.
Tulane is still alive. Again, they've been accepted an invitation to the College Basketball Crown tournament in Vegas. They took on USC, Southern California, on April the 1st. So many rumors swirling over the last 24 hours about Ron Hunter leaving for North Texas. Can you squash those rumors?
Yeah, that was never going to happen on both fronts. He likes it at Tulane. I actually can't think of a program that's run more differently than the way North Texas is run. Right? They're a defense first, man up, in your face. Their coach, who I think is going to do a great job at West Virginia, he got the job because McCaslin left for Texas Tech. He was his assistant, and I think their defense. I covered that conference closely because I follow Tulane. Their defense is as good as any team in the country. That guy's a heck of a coach. But Ron Hunter, his matchup zone, and their in-your-face man-to-man defense, it didn't seem like a natural fit at all. So no, that wasn't going to happen.
I did want to talk a little about the transfer portal. Over 500 players in on the first day. Tulane has lost some players, and they're going into a tournament. LSU has lost multiple players as well. Corey Chess, Michael Williams III, Tyrell Ward so far. More expected to be able to defect. Can you give us an update on the Tulane defections?
Sure. And first of all, how insane is it that they let the transfer portal open during the tournament Tulane's in? That's not that big a deal in the scope. But during the NCAA tournament, who came up? It's like one of these things where it's impossible that somebody actually came up with that system that you would do that.
Gary, I agree with you. I ran it on the radio the other day. I did it during football season. I've done it during basketball season. It makes no sense to have the transfer portal open when you're still playing championships for that sport.
It's nuts. Yeah, and Tulane, they took a hit. Not totally unexpected. They're still disappointed because this is a team that actually came really close to making the NCAA tournament in their conference tournament. They were right with Memphis in the last minute. They got a couple of one definite bad call,
questionable
one possible bad
officiating,
call.
No doubt.
Rowan Brumbaugh is still trying to recover from the scratches and bruises he has from a guy jumping on top of him to get the steal that ended up being. Tulane would have had at least a 50-50 chance to win that game if they'd have gotten the right calls. Then they would have been playing a UAB team that they just beaten by 18 a week earlier in the final. But if they had all come back, they had a legitimate NCAA tournament potential type team.
Which makes it such a bummer.
But that's not what happens anymore. Cam Williams had already hired an agent like a month ago, so you kind of had an idea. He's your modern day guy that people love. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's a great three-point shooter, and he's a great defensive player, and he can develop the rest of his skills, which he didn't quite have as a freshman. So it's no surprise that he left. But I think they thought that they would keep the other guys. Caleb Banks, who didn't play much at all at Indiana, came in, had a very solid year for Tulane. At one point, he was averaging almost 20 points a game, tailed off a little bit offensively. He entered the portal. They were disappointed with that, and I think the one they were shocked by was Mari Jordan, who was their sixth man, who was going to basically inherit Caleb Banks' role and play a huge role next year. He didn't have great stats, so I'm not sure how much higher he's going to be able to go. He entered the transfer portal. Those were their 3 most athletic guys on the roster, and they were kind of the difference makers on this team, because the biggest difference in this team was their defense. They were so much more athletic and had so much length, with 2 6'8" guys on the wing being able to challenge shooters, and they don't have that now. They still have a pretty good core, though. Let's not. Rowan Brumbaugh was absolutely just a astoundingly good player.
One of the best guards
much
in the
better
conference.
than people thought he would be when he came to Georgia. He was first team. Now they put 10 guys on the first team, but he would have been on the first team. I think if they'd only had 5. Greg Glenn was a little inconsistent, but he developed as the year went along. He's got unbelievable passing skills for a big man. He can handle the ball. And Asher Woods averaged 19 points in their last 4 games. That's a good building block, but they're going to have to go in the transfer portal again and to get back to the level, to get to a point where they can legitimately be a conference championship contender.
Well, that's
year.
the question, though. Is Brumbaugh going to stay?
Right.
Like, that's the next thing. It seems like he's riding this wave out, no pun intended, for the rest of this year to see how this tournament goes. Is he going to stick around?
I think he will. I never say never about guys leaving for the transfer portal. He has said over and over he loves this system. He feels like the matchup zone that they play really helps his defensive skills. And he was supposed to be a lousy defender, not just a bad defender when he came to it. He was one of the leaders in the conference in steals. He played good defense. He did make some comments during the year, though, about the lack of crowds. A couple of times he talked about that he couldn't understand why when they went on the road there were a lot more people when they were in 4th place. So there's that. But as long as Greg Glenn's already committed to coming back, I would lean towards Rowan Brumbaugh staying at this point.
Brumbaugh and Glenn, that's a pretty good, obviously, foundation of guys heading into next year. The toughest part about this year was just they were so close, and that Memphis game was aggravating because, I mean, they took that basket away from Brumbaugh, too. It's just like, it's because, again, like they would have beaten UAB. Cam Williams, he hit 6 threes in that UAB game, showing off what you were talking about. I mean, that was their closest time, and that would have been their first tournament since, 95?
Yeah, in 95. And let's say it wouldn't have won them the game because there was still 25.
Sure.
Even if he gets the 2 free throws, there's 20 seconds left. They were having a really hard time keeping Memphis off the free throw line at the end of that game. But they sure, I would have had a heck of a lot better chance to win the game if they'd called that foul. And the goaltending call, the announcer during the telecast thought they were not going to overturn the call. And I've still never gotten total clarification on that rule because the guy definitely got the block before the ball hit the backboard, but it was still, he pinned it against the backboard afterwards, and I never got a clear clarification on whether, because you can't pin it against the backboard, but if you've already hit it first, I never got a choication on that.
I don't know. I've been watching basketball.
But they had to
a long
overturn
time.
the call,
Right.
And the announcer doing the game did not think they were going to overturn the call. So,
Again, it looked like goaltending.
I
mean, there's no way around it. All right, guys, let's go to the LSU women. Beat Florida State 101-71. They move on to the Sweet 16. They'll be taking on, ironically, North Carolina State, we're just talking about. That's a Friday game on ESPN in the Spokane Regional. They did beat North Carolina State in November, 82-65. I'll just say this. If they play like they played in the third quarter and the second half of that Florida State game, they could be the only team in America.
One of the best defensive quarters you'll see all season. I mean, amazing. And I think the biggest thing for them is, if you're an LSU women's basketball fan, you can finally exhale. I mean, you saw what happened to Anissa Morrow in the SEC tournament. You thought maybe, I mean, she's getting helped off. Maybe like that injury would have sidelined her for a while. That ends up working out. Flaugier had shin inflammation. I've never had shin inflammation. It sounds incredibly painful, and it hurt her for a while. She even, looked good. I mean, she wasn't like her full self, but she even looked good in that Florida State game. So if you're an LSU fan and they're getting healthy at this time of the year, man, they'll have a shot.
I would agree.
I'll never doubt Kim Mulkey is an NCAA tournament coach. I still don't understand why she plays such weak conference schedules, and they're always getting stuck with number 3 seeds. Then they play like it doesn't matter in the tournament. I don't think they're going to win it this year. I think they're going to beat NC State. UCLA may be tough for them. I think UConn in the Final Four, which has been on fire lately, but they certainly have a chance, and they're going to always have a chance with Kim Mulkey as coach.
And even if they beat NC State, you got, like you said, UCLA on the other side, powerhouse, the number 1 overall seed, and the team that UCLA is playing Ole Miss, a Rebels team that has beaten a number 1 seed before. 2 years ago, they upset number 1 Stanford. So if they were to beat them, LSU lost at home to Ole Miss a few weeks ago. So nothing is
that wasn't a full. I'll say this: I think there's the only teams that can beat them are UCLA, UConn, and South Carolina. I don't think. Yes, they lost to Ole Miss, but Kim Mulkey's not going to lose to Ole Miss.
What does she have? 5 national titles in her career?
Crazy. All right, guys. Tulane LSU in spring right now. Let's take LSU first. Have you had a chance to see them at all?
Talk a little bit about it. I've been out there. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Barian Brown, the transfer from Kentucky, his explosiveness, and also Nick Anderson, the receiver from Oklahoma, another guy that they brought in, some extra weapons, and they're excited about Xavion Thomas back, and also Chris Hilton being back too. So, and another year of Nussmeier to develop kind of in that system. A lot of parts back. A good combination of returners and also big pieces kind of from the portal. Obviously, they're losing some big names from their O-line. They're going to be high picks in the NFL draft. But even still, I mean, Brian Kelly seems very confident in the replacements there. So I don't know. I think LSU could be really on its way to a big season this fall.
If I'm not mistaken, top 5 class in terms of their high school recruiting this year, and then the number 1 class in the portal going into this year. Again, they lose some players, but this should backfill nicely on, again, the players that they lost. Again, Brian Kelly, again, embracing the transfer portal, putting up his own money as well. We'll see how that works out. Again, the natives are getting restless up at LSU right now. They're expecting more. We'll see, again, how that plays out this year.
He just can't fumble the bag at the beginning of the season.
Right.
That one loss, even with the expanded playoff, it can still set you back. Not as much as it did the last few years with only 4 teams, but now it still sets you back with early losses.
Right.
Clemson this time is there for
Clemson, right. And again, and I think they're going to get away from that, especially again with looking at the way things may be set up again with scheduling going forward. How about Tulane? How are they looking?
Pretty good. Again, they lost 17 starters out of 22 on offense and defense. So if teams are going to get them in the American Athletic Conference, this might be the year. But let me just give you a quote. A former assistant coach who was on the staff in 2019 and 2020 came to see Will Hall, who's back on the staff as an assistant on the offensive side. And I had a conversation with him during the practice in the first week, and he was talking about he would have absolutely killed to have the talent level in 2019 and 2020 that Tulane has now. He said that Tulane now is like Houston and UCF were when they were dominating the league in terms of just being able to bring guys in that are just simply better than the other teams in the league. Memphis would be the only team that he thinks has the talent level to compare with this Tulane team. Now, they've got a bunch of question marks. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They've got three guys, obviously, that came in this spring. Again, when you're replacing 17 out of 22 starters, that may be more than any other team in the entire country. You've got a lot of work to do. But it's not a question of whether they have enough talent on this roster. They absolutely have enough talent on this roster. They've made the AAC championship 3 years in a row, which if you'd ask anybody five years ago, could that possibly happen?
Right. Say no.
No chance. Right. They certainly are going to be in the picture to get there a 4th year in a row, despite having a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball.
This is John Summerall's biggest test as a head coach. He's passed every test since, obviously getting a job. His teams at Troy were great. Did a good job last year, even though obviously the skid to end the season wasn't great. They were a tournament, or a playoff conversation in that conversation for a while. This year, if he ends up leading this team to a 9 or 10 win season, when you lost your starting quarterback to Duke, Mekhi Hughes going to Oregon, Bauman to Miami, all 17 new starters, like Guerry said, and still, if you're able to piece this together so quickly to dominate this conference, this would, put him at an even higher tier. Right. Because, even last year, he was held in such high regard in the offseason.
Yes.
And it would just skyrocket if he was able to lead this team to that. And I'm not saying they can't. Look, we don't have any reason to doubt him.
Right, I would agree. I want to touch on college baseball, and I do want to get to the Pelicans before we finish up today. LSU 23-3, 4-2. They beat UL the other night, 17-4. They got Mississippi State this week at the box. Thursday, Friday, Saturday for LSU. UNO 13-10. They're 6-6 in their league. They beat Tulane in the first game of the Pelican Cup. That was again a rescheduled game. That was 7-6 on the lakefront. And Tulane is at South Florida for a series this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. UNO is at SLU Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. Tulane is 17-8, 2-1. Let's take Tulane first. Okay. Your thoughts on the baseball team?
Yeah, they're not playing well. I know the record is good. They keep managing to win home series. They've won every home series they've played, but they got to play a heck of a lot better, and Jay Ullman would be the first one to agree with me on that. This is a massive series for them on the road against South Florida. I don't know how good South Florida is, but their RPI is the highest in the league based on what they did in the non-conference. And this Tulane team's been shaky. And it goes all the way across the board. They finally had a streak of 7 straight games without 10 hits, fewer than 10 hits before that they broke on Sunday, and when they beat Wichita State, and then they couldn't get 10 against UNO again this week. And they're hitting like 230 as a team after the first 2 weeks of the year. Their pitching their starting pitching. They have a hard time getting through 3 innings a lot of times. They've got some good guys in the bullpen. They've had 2 great players, Michael Lombardi, who's their 2-way star, has been unbelievable. He's second in the nation in saves with 7, and a lot of those haven't been 3-run. Those have been coming in with the bases loaded and 1-run lead a lot of times, and having to strike 2 guys out to keep the lead. And he's hitting about 290. And then Connor Rasmussen, their second baseman, hitting about 365. They need almost everybody else in their lineup to step up and join Connor Rasmussen, and they need to find some starting pitching, or it's not going to go well the rest of the year. The potential is there, but they have to start playing better right now.
Your thoughts?
And I mean, I just think that if Trey Sahajic and Luke Flatta can pitch to their potential, you could have a chance when it's all said and done. I mean, what Tulane did last year with making the NCAA tournament and winning their conference tournament and getting hot and making it to that point, I used to cover Ole Miss, and they were the literal last team to make the field. I thought that their coach was going to probably get fired, Mike Bianco.
Yes.
No doubt.
And then I overhear on the selection show, I literally have the story done that they're not making the tournament. And then all of a sudden you hear their name, then they win it all. And that is because they had 2 elite starting pitchers, a freshman in Hunter Elliott, and then Dylan DeLucia, who won the Most Outstanding Player Award. If Tulane, I'm not saying that they need to be those elite SEC arms, but if Trey and Luke can play to their potential and be, above average in those roles and eat a lot of innings, then maybe they could have a chance. I mean, it's a long season, but it has not been inspiring as of now.
And Luke Flatta had a shocking performance on their opening. This is a guy who, his last game last year, he shut out Nichols in the Corvallis Regional. First play of the game was a rocket double. Next guy rocket double. Next guy rocket double. Next guy elevated the rocket, and it was a home run. And this is a guy they were counting on to be their rock, their ace, and he still has that chance. But they end up winning the series, but you don't want to start off that week that way in a series. Yeah.
John, talk about LSU.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're a highly ranked team to kind of obviously start this year. They've had those few impressive series as well. They're not going to be that battle tested this week with Mississippi State. I believe the Bulldogs are 1-5 in SEC play. With LSU, I think that if you look at it from a glass half full perspective, then I mean everything's going great. That record is what it is. I mean, ranked one of the top teams in the nation, great. On the other side of things, you need to see more out of that rotation outside of Cade. You need some of those other guys to step up a little more, especially as conference play heightens. So that's going to be one thing, but that's the best part about the SEC. I mean, you get so battle tested throughout the year. I mean, you're basically playing the College World Series throughout your season. I mean, so that's something that is definitely gives these teams an advantage. So as long as you just right the ship by the time you get in there, they're probably going to be a top 16 seed. I mean, I don't want to guarantee a top 8 national seed, but that could definitely be the case as well. So, I mean, look, I don't have anywhere to panic, but that would be my one thing, a little bit more outside of Cade.
Yeah, the SEC is such a meat grinder. It sure looks like LSU's the top 8 team. I mean, Texas A&M was number 1 in the country a few weeks ago. They're 0-6 in the SEC. Florida is 0-6 in the SEC. LSU got the one bad team in the league in Missouri and showed them the door. But then they lost 2 out of 3 to Texas, which is a good team, but not supposed to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams. So it could go both ways. But certainly, they're crushing teams, which they never did last year. And they're those midweek games. They're not even letting teams hang around with them at all. No.
University of New Orleans, Blake Dean leaves. Again, that was a shock to that program. Your thoughts on how they're looking?
Yeah, it won't affect them this year because they already had the roster set. It's what's going to happen down the road. They've got a pretty good team. That league is the 5th highest rated league in the country this year.
They play good baseball.
They had not done as well the last couple of years. they're not going to be a contender to win the regular season in that league, but they could finish 4th or 5th, and they've got a solid roster. They can hit the ball. That's for darn sure. With them, it's going to be a question: do they have enough pitching?
Man, that conference is so loaded. I mean, we were looking at it the other day. It's like, my goodness, just everywhere from. I mean, how many of those teams are going to make it to the tournament? Probably a good amount, and they'll make some serious noise because they've been battle tested because they played each other.
Yeah, I would agree. Guys, let's talk some Pels with the time that we have left. Right now, 20-53 with 9 to play. They get Golden State on Friday, Charlotte on Sunday. But basically playing with a G League team right now, a lot of backups. Again, a lot of people believe they get
It's over, yeah.
You need to sit Zion at this point.
Right.
CJ McCollum needs to take a rest here. Just play the string out. The folding for flag sweepstakes is as follows: Washington has 15 wins, Utah has 16, Charlotte 18, Pels 20. Philadelphia and Brooklyn 23. So there's again a shot there. They could get the #1 overall pick. The big question is the future of Zion Williamson in New Orleans. And I've had this conversation on this show and on the radio show.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going.
Oh, I do.
Okay. He's playing well. He's lost weight. He looks like he's matured. On one hand, you say, my gosh, he looks like he's ready to be the player that we thought he was going to be out of Duke. On the other hand, you say, he has never been at his highest point in terms of trade value than he is now to New Orleans. If you are David Griffin and retained, and that is a question mark. If you're Willie Green and retained, that is now also a question. But if you're David Griffin and retained, do you listen to offers for Zion Williamson this summer?
I would, and here's the best scenario. What is the one thing the Pelicans have done fantastic in their history in New Orleans?
Drafting.
Get lucky in the lottery.
And get lucky, right?
And they're going to have they're going to have a better than 20% chance to the best scenario is they win that dang thing, and then they've got Cooper Flag, and then Zion's gone. And because you can't, the guy, he has not averaged 40 games a year, and he's in his sixth year, and you cannot. It's not only you can't count on him, you know that he's not going to be there. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. The luck is if it doesn't happen. Right. The reality is it's going to happen. And you're right, the trade value is at its highest right now. So barring, if they get Cooper Flag, then it's a good deal. It's tough because, again, he is so talented. You've got to get commensurate value for him. But he's at a high point right now. Yes. So if I'm them, I would look.
That is so interesting you say that, because I was so ready to pound the table and say keep them around, because here's the thing. These big market stars, I'm not just saying they don't want to come to New Orleans and leaving New Orleans specific.
But it is true.
It is, but it's not just New Orleans. It's basically they only want to go to New York, California, or Miami. That's really it. That's where maybe sometimes there's some special situations, but that's basically it. You're not going to lure someone like that. So if you let him go, blow the rest of it up. Blow the rest of it up and go full rebuild if that was the case. But if you get Cooper Flag, a guy maybe that it's easier to play with compared to others. So, I mean, look, if the offer is there and you take a long look at his medicals and you're really not confident in what he's going to bring in the future, okay, move on, give the keys to Cooper Flag, then you have a young nucleus, and you kind of see where things go with Trey Murphy and him. But, man, Zion is the best he's ever been. I almost confused him for Yves Missi the other night. Yves Missi, the big man who everyone says needs to gain weight. When were we ever talking about Zion comparing him to the skinniest guy on the court? His defense is the best. His rebounding numbers are the best. He's as unstoppable as ever. But, the injury thing, I mean, the hamstring, heartbreaker last year, heartbreaker this year because it basically ended their season. So, and you can't just gamble kind of on the health. That's a hard.
You know, guys, first of all, it would take some cojones, being a general manager or the vice president of basketball operations, to trade a possible generational player, right? Okay? They have all the leverage now. The contract is in the favor of the Pelicans.
Oh, yeah. Cap is skyrocketing.
I mean, so again, he has no guaranteed money left. Okay, at this point, because of again not playing enough games this season. Obviously, there's the weight clause in there now, etc. So everything is in the Pelicans' favor here. There is a school of thought that if you get a Cooper Flag, you have a legitimate superstar that you could put next to him, and then maybe you're not relying on him as much as you are now.
I don't think
it didn't work out with Brandon Ingram because Brandon Ingram was often injured there. It is an interesting scenario that they're going to have to deal with this offseason. And again, do you move him now at his highest point? Do you hold on to him because, again, he is a generational player and looks like he's turned the corner? Only the Pelicans knows if he's really, truly matured, right?
Yeah, and they had that plane incident where he was late.
Right.
And I mean, they don't just suspend him for that one thing. I mean, it had to have been a couple of things. But also, like with Zion, it's not just, all right, should they trade him or should they not? It depends all on the market. Like, what could they get back? You need at least a young player or two you could build around. And you can't just get picks, because odds are you get those picks, it's going to be from a team that's adding Zion that might be good, and those picks are not going to be worth anything. What picks have they gotten from the Drew Holiday trade?
Look at Los Angeles trade and look at the Milwaukee trade. To your point, exactly.
Yeah, like nothing from there.
If they get Cooper Flag, Zion's not staying. I'm telling you that right now. Cooper Flag's generational too. The difference is he's not as interesting generational as Zion. Zion was a once in a lifetime type of athlete at his size. But you're either mature or you're not. There are plenty of immature guys who lead teams to championships in the NBA, but I don't think there are too many immature guys that can't play 40 games a year that lead.
But you could also look at it and say, okay, a year ago we won 49 games. He played in 70.
Yes.
He dominated LeBron, went toe to toe, but then obviously the injury after that was massive. That's like one of the biggest what ifs, because what happens to the Pels in the playoffs that year if they get in? They match up with Denver, and who knows? I mean, we probably lose, but
then we can get into coaching. I mean, to me, there's a lot of things they need to change around here.
Well, I've got a minute left. Do they change their front office? Is Willie Green and or David Griffin here next year?
If you had a gun to my head, I would say David Griffin is. I would say Willie Green is not. The team has looked a little uninspired ever since they've gotten fully healthy. And sometimes, I mean, there's so many times where he's talked about them being soft and whatnot, and that's kind of on him.
Too many blowout losses. I mean, again, throw away the season, because when Jeremiah Robinson Earl has the second most played games of anybody on your roster, you've got no chance. But I don't like that when they've been relatively healthy, the complete blowout losses. That's coaching. That's getting your guys to buy in and give effort, and he's had a hard time consistently getting them to do that.
A year ago.
Right, and everybody loves Willie Green, okay, at that point. So, David Griffin as well? Or
David Griffin will, I mean, I think he's going to be here.
I think he's going to be here as well. I think they're going to change. They're going to have to make a change. Look, the Saints and Pelicans, the folks on Airline Highway, again, they're very, they have rabbit ears. They know what's going on in the sports psyche of the fan here in New Orleans. With their football team and their basketball team, someone's going to have to take the hit here, and it probably will be Willie Green. John Sokoloff, thank you so much for joining us on our program today. Guerry, thank you. Guerry will be dipping with me as he always does on a Thursday. He'll be joining us at 4:15 here on the radio show as well. Great breakdown on the panel today. Thank you guys for being with us today on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, so many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to, again, the WLAE-TV YouTube channel and also to my website. Again, between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, Pelican Sports Television, the YouTube channel. Set your DVR, get on the internet, you'll never miss the program. All right, you can catch me on the radio, 106.7, not 106.1, 106.7, the ticket. 100,000 watt flame throwing signal now. Again, you catch me 4 to 6 weekdays. We have local programming started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, all the way till 6 with Ken Train and Ju Young, again on either side of me. And of course, Fox Sports Radio and Tulane, UNO, Delgado Athletics as well, and great high school sports over at the ticket. Also, again, want to thank the underwriters who make this show possible. Again, please support the underwriters who make this show possible. Again, they're fantastic companies, again, that means so much to, again, our program. Also, again, I want to thank the folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program each and every week, do a fantastic job. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, and the best director in the business, William Hill. For John, for Guerry, I'm Eric. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.